If you took Dead Cells, Hades, and sprinkled a bit of Megaman in, you would end up with Elsie. I put a community post out yesterday about how all this week we're highlighting different indie games. Now this one is published by Platonic Friends, and thanks to them we're able to bring you this episode as they've sponsored it, as well as sponsoring a few copies to give away to you guys. But it was developed by Night Shift Games, who by all accounts have put their heart and soul over many years getting this game to, well, this stage. And it was time well spent. Elsie, not to be mistaken for me nan. What's it all about? Well, let's find out. The story goes that famous professor, Dr. Gray, made a load of androids that were guardians of the Earth and could basically stop any natural disasters. So far, so straightforward. Unfortunately though, they suddenly disappeared. And then a load of robots came and started destroying everything. Thankfully, Dr. Gray escaped and was able to create one last machine, the perfect android, and the last hope of humanity. Thus, Elsie was born. Gameplay wise, well, we are in for a treat. The game is split between two areas. You have a hub called Sapir Wharf, which is like a waterside village where you and your companions gather. It's from here that you'll do all your roguelitey bits between rounds. What roguelitey bits, you might ask? Well, you can buy different buildings which add in new functionality, like this lady over here who grants you different magical spells, or another who adds weapons and allows you to customize your loadouts. And the good doctor, who you might ask, Dr. Gray, she has her own lab there, which allows you to meta progress using this currency over here. These unlock items that you'll be able to purchase or find throughout the world. Just as with a few other roguelites, to unlock the buildings and the characters that are tied to them, you'll have to reach certain levels. When you find them, you'll have a little chin wag and generally say to them, "I'll see you back at the wharf," making them then available to talk to. And then we jump into a run, the good stuff. Now initially Elsie is equipped with a rapid firing pistol. She has the token dash move, but there are a few nice little extra mechanics. Now there's a parry system that's quite unusual. Basically you press L whenever you're going to encounter damage, and it does this little vent on screen, and if you press it at the right time, aka when it turns green, you'll then rebut the power and do a counter attack. While that's used to deflect damage and repel bullets, you also need to do that to bring down the enemy's shields. Your dash move can be used multiple times, which is nice, so if you're clinging to a wall, which you can do as well, firing off shots and then you have to dash out of danger. If you mess up the timing, you can press it again and again, and even, well, you get a picture, and it can be really handy for getting you out of situations where you'll otherwise fall to your death. Now, I say death, but you have a number of hearts, which are shown up here, and there's also armor which can be equipped to gain you extra resistance, and as far as roguelites go, this has got a great balance between difficulty and accessibility. Not only that, but it rewards you very often. So you progress through a stage. It is procedurally generated in some ways. It's one of those situations where the developers seem to have created a number of rooms and some general layouts, and then it sprinkles that procedural sauce over the top so that every time you play it feels in a different order and sometimes has unique areas. It's nice, it works well, and you can go backwards and forwards between rooms, although this isn't one where you require a map. It might simply be that you need to go back for a chest that you forgot or an item that you left on the ground. Now the combat is very quick indeed, and actually a real standout for me. The parry move took quite a bit of getting used to, but once I did I realised why it's designed the way it is. Because it's not just a parry, it's also a way of avoiding damage, and as mentioned, taking down enemy shields. Throw in the fact that as you get more powerful, you can perform a special move by pulling the L and R bumper buttons together, and that changes the way the parry works, so that it can be triggered instantly, as you would find in other games. You can also do a downward explosive drop to either bounce off of enemies or use these bounce platforms. Oh, and dashing through these gives you an extra jump in midair. Now the intangible that I'm going to try and articulate to you now are the controls. This is one of the tightest games I have played in a long time. Every single movement is instantly responded to by the character. There is no input latency. You have mid-air aerial control, and the limitless dashes. It's precise and it feels great. This one is running at 60 frames per second. Strangely, you can actually switch on the FPS. It looks like an old debugging menu they left behind. But I did notice some of the more busy areas you will see some frame drops. However, it never became egregious, and you'll notice as soon as the chaos has left the screen, things return to 60. All of your weapons are tied to an energy bar system that you can see over in the corner, and the managing of this is quite important. If you're trying to just spam the fire button, you'll eventually end up with an absolutely pathetic rate of fire and no real chance of doing any damage. So we've got the hub area. We've got very tight, precise combat, but then we have the leveling system and items. Levels work behind the scenes as you're doing damage to enemies and killing them. Every now and then you'll level up. Pressing the minus button during this time will bring up a menu and freeze all of proceedings, allowing you to put one of the options into your character for the entirety of that run. Back in the hub area you can unlock new ones of these and more variety, but levels are quite swift and you'll feel like you're getting powerful very quickly. In addition to this, killing enemies without taking damage or doing other prerequisites will drop a little chest in the level which you can unlock to gain even more items, and occasionally you'll find purple ones, and if you have a key you can unlock those. Between areas sometimes you'll have a shop, but there are also the lovingly named bonfires. The bonfire is actually a vending machine from which you can restore your energy, skill points, or a section of your health. Where the game really reminds me of Dead Cells then is in the way you progress through the stages. So once you fight the boss and hopefully defeat them, 2 portals will open up and you get a choice of which area to enter next. Now the difference there being that in Dead Cells you can actually make your way in the stage to a different exit, but I like this portal system and it's not always the same 2 portals. There seems to be a randomness there. The stage variety is very strong. I even found myself in an underwater section at one point, and artistically speaking I was getting old Sonic CD vibes from some of the stages. Do you remember Stardust Speedway? You can certainly see they've taken influences from lots of different places, but also genres. Visually it looks exceptionally good. I think the soundtrack's brilliant. I'm not entirely sure who created it, but it's very catchy without being irritating. There were a few things that took a bit of getting used to. The parry mechanic felt like it should have a specific sound. Do you know what I mean? Normally in a game you do a parry and you get like a satisfying sword deflect sound or something similar. Here it's just silent, or at least very, very quiet. It is something you end up doing so often. I wonder if it was a design choice to simply avoid any audio repetition, but still I'm not sure. Now one very good visual tweak that you can make to the game is if you have any problems with being able to see any part of it, whether it's through colour blindness or you just think there's too much going on screen, they've afforded you loads of options. There are 4 different colorblind options. You can put an indicator around your character. You can even turn off the background so that you can just focus on the main character or blur the background entirely. It's really nice to see that level of accessibility, and for those players that just want to enjoy the game without any threat of death, or you've got kids who want to play, you can actually turn on an invincibility mode. Now as you're making your way through the game you will encounter a few different bonus stages as well. These harken back to the 90s games that inspired this, and you might be collecting these little targets, sliding your way down walls, but if you fall down you fail, and if you achieve it you're rewarded. Elsie in many ways feels no nonsense while still offering a ton of depth in terms of the amount of items you can collect, the upgrading of the hub area, and just generally being really fun. I don't use names like Dead Cells and Hades lightly, I really don't. This one's very fun indeed, and like another game, Nano Apostle, that we're playing at the moment, which we'll have a video in a couple of days about, definitely one for fans of those genres. As far as price, well, this one's releasing with a 20% discount, and that takes it down to £15.99 from its usual £19.99, and that goes on until the end of the month. That's like the perfect price, isn't it really? About 15-16 quid. And as I say, if you're a fan of the genre, you are going to enjoy this one. As always, I'll pop all the links you might need down in the description to check it out for yourself. A big congratulations to the small team who have made this one. It's brilliant. It's just a great game. I'm quite happy to say it. As I said before, this week is just filled with cracking games from smaller teams. And a big thanks to the publisher for allowing us to give away a couple of copies. We'll be doing a community post at the end of this week, and we'll give away 2 copies of each of the games. So it'll be 8 games given away in total, which is pretty sweet. Thank you to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy the content. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Now I've got a bad throat, so I'm going to have to say this quietly. Cheers guys, see ya!